here to show you how to do this long layered haircut using a razor. The first step is to take a center part just to divide the left and right sides. Then you're going to take a parting to divide the front and back. So find the highest point of the head. You can place your comb on top of the head and you see where that point leaves off. It's actually where the head is at the highest point. It's where it rounds off. And you can just take a vertical parting from that point down to the ear, and that's going to divide the front and the back of the head. Just take a clip and keep the hair in the back out of the way. So we'll start right in with the face framing. The first section that you take is going to mimic the hairline. So it'll probably look a little curved, honestly. Everyone's hairline is different, but you want to make sure that it's a solid section from start to finish. Some of the hairlines, especially around this area, like the recession area, tends to get thinner. So in order to create a really perfect guide, you want to make sure you have enough hair in your guide to see. So if you need to curve around that recession to get more hair, you have to do that. So I'm going to start below the chin and we're going to work our way down to the length. When you're creating your guide, make sure to take your guideline around the eye because the hair is not going to be living in front of the face. So take the shortest strand, use your finger to hold it on the outer corner of the eye so that the person can see, then select your length, and once you have that, you can cut your guideline. Now I know when the hair lives around the eye, it's going to be at the right length. We're going to keep a low elevation for this, so no higher than 90 degrees. Hold that out, and then just start notching small little baby notches working from short to long. Your line should really be extending pretty far. So always make sure to find that longest guideline and then just use small notches, sliding your fingers down the strand as you cut. That's going to give you a consistent extended line so you have a really beautiful face frame. Now once you're happy with your first section, all you got to do is take sections behind it and connect. So I'm going to take another section right behind the first one. The section is more of a diagonal, which is going to help with where we're combing it, which is kind of at a 45-degree angle. Take that hair, combing it to the guide. Once you can see your guide underneath, now you can just connect. Make sure to work in sections that you can control. So you see how I'm dropping the hair when I lose control of it. And then I'm just using the razor to connect the layers. It should be about 2 to 3 subsections depending on the actual width of the section you're working with. So you can already start to see this face framing that's starting to show just from the haircut. And now we're going to continue working our way back. So you can see where we're combing. Notice this hair here. In a traditional butterfly cut, we would normally over-direct it, so it would be elevated and over-directed a lot farther forward. But here we're keeping the hair closer to its natural state so we can maintain the weight and density in that length. But let's connect these final layers. So I don't need to cut any more up here, it looks like. There, I can start to see the long strands. And now just use your razor to notch into the face framing. Some things to think about is the angle of your blade as you're inserting. So make sure that it's slightly diagonal in comparison to the strand you're cutting. That way you can get more of a textured notch into the edge. And then also make sure you're not using too much force. If the blade is sharp enough, it should cut pretty smoothly and pretty easily. Now you can see those nice face framing layers we've got going on. And it's really connected all the way through. So it's working from the guide all the way down to the length. Now for the other side, we're going to take a guide from the center strand. That way it kind of balances out on each side. That first subsection is going to mimic the hairline. There you go. Now all we have to do is connect the guideline into the length. So comb that hair forward, extend slightly past the guide, and then just begin notching to connect your way down. Make sure you're really using an extended diagonal stroke because you're trying to maintain a lot of that length. So just be careful while you work your way down that you're focusing on working all the way to the ends. You could do this in one section, but I think it's smarter to use subsections. The reason for that is just so you can maintain more control over your cutting line. So let's say you cut one part a little too short. You can always then take the next subsection and slightly disconnect it. So if you do it all in one section, you're kind of cutting it all in one go and you only get one try. actually leaving more subsections gives you a little bit of leeway. So if you make a slight mistake, you can potentially correct it on your way to the back. And this is the final section. Remember that your elevation is still going to be kind of low. So you're just combing that hair slightly forward. I'm happy with that line, so we're going to keep working our way around. Now I can start to see some of those longer strands. And then all we're going to do is connect it to the layers. Notice how much more of that weight and density in the bottom we're able to keep now. Then, to just check for balance in the front, take a small triangle. This would traditionally be like the bang section of your haircut, but just take a small triangle. It really goes no farther than the outer corners of the eye. When you comb this down, you're going to be able to see how balanced or unbalanced your face framing is. So you can see as I comb it down, you should have kind of this arc shape or this V. And now I can tell, oh, maybe I should cut a little bit more on one side just to make sure it blends. So I'm going to comb this down, and I'll just start to balance the shape from there. Comb both sections together, just check it looks good. This still feels thicker on the side, so I'm going to continue with my shaping. And just do that until you're happy with this bang section. Because if this has balance, that's the visual part that matters, and then the rest is all just about keeping the length. So once you're happy, see now that's feeling a lot better. Just double check the arc. That looks nice and fresh. And now I'll feel good about moving on. So you can see how nice and easily this hair is combing into place. So you get this really beautiful face framing that works from the jawline all the way down into the ends. You'll want to start by splitting the back into two sections, so just divide it in half. We're going to start by connecting the outline of this haircut. So you can comb that hair down and you'll actually see where that haircut ends from the side. So here, that's where that length is ending on the side. Combing the back towards the side. Once you see where the length ends, now you can just continue cutting a diagonal line. So I'm over-directing it to the side, which is going to create a slight U shape. If you wanted to create an even more pronounced U or even a V shape, you could comb this hair to the front and then cut it that way as well. And that's an easier way to achieve balance. So this is one way to do it if you're able to work around the head, just so that you can have a full connection through the ends. But alternatively, if it's easier for you, you could just comb this entire back section to the front. Combing all the way down, you can see where the ends are. And now all you've got to do, comb your ends to that front, and then finish off the diagonal line. So that's a really easy way also to do your final connection. And it's going to prevent you from cutting a hole around the ear because you're not elevating it so high. So you'll be able to keep all of that density and length in the back. So everything is looking really nice and full and thick, which I love. What we want to do is create a little bit more shape in the top. The only area you really want to layer here is going to be the top. You don't really want to get too far into the sides, otherwise you're going to lose density. So before you even start cutting the section, just make sure that you take the sides away so you don't cut anything out of the perimeter. So I'm going to pull this hair up. This is more hair than I think I can deal with in one section, so I'm just going to break it up. And I'll start with this first section, and we're going to cut a line that gets longer to the back. So here we go. Once the bang area drops out, see right there, now we can start our layers. And I'm just going to work diagonally to the back. Pull that section up. You can see where you have to cut, and then you're just going to cut a diagonal line. Go. Great, so that looks good. Now we're going to add the other side. You'll take a small piece of hair in the center as the guide. And remember, before cutting anything, just to separate the sides from the top, because you're not going to want to take away any of that density on the side. So you can split it up if you have to, make it simple. And we're combing that hair straight up. Looking for our guideline. Once you find it, you can just cut short to long. And because you split the section up, it'll be really easy to control. So you can find where your guideline is and then just continue cutting. See how I lose tension right here? You can always just recomb, regain control, and then continue your cut. Perfect. Now as you comb that down, that line is going to get longer to the back. So you'll have nice short to long layers as well as a short to long face frame, and it'll make it really beautiful when you blow dry the haircut. Create a section in the back that just encompasses the crown. So here you can see now we're working with the crown section. Comb that hair up. Just find your guide. There we go. And you can see that little bit of hair to connect. So we'll just do that. You could absolutely cut more, but here our focus is in maintaining the length and the density of the haircut while adding those layers in the front. Because remember, if you add too many layers in the back, you're not going to be able to do a lot of stuff with styling. So if you do want to add some layers, you just want to make sure that they're really soft. But overall, you want to keep the back pretty solidly one length. By layering this way just in the crown, you can add a little bit of movement in the haircut, but it'll still blend into the overall length. So when it's straight, you're not going to end up with all those kind of choppy pieces in the bottom. I think that's what I'm noticing a lot of the clients are not liking right now is when they try to wear their hair stick straight, because of all the layers from the butterfly cuts, it's kind of looking a little choppy and a little messy. So this is a really good solution to grow out those layers, especially if you're kind of moving past that phase of your life and you just want to have something that's a little bit more versatile and a little bit more fun to style. You can see where we want to connect those layers. So just grab that hair, keep good control, and cut short to long. There's one more thing we want to accomplish before we blow dry, and that's just going to be removing weight in the haircut. So if I take that first subsection, right, kind of mimics the hairline, now we can see our guide. We already cut the line of the hair, so all we want to do now is take away a little bit of weight. The fun part about this is all we have to do is just go right into that haircut and just slightly insert your razor to start notching away small pieces. You want to kind of think about where you're notching the hair away because you don't want to take away hair if it's already kind of thin in that area. And also you don't want to necessarily notch away in the hair too close to the roots. So as I take each subsection, I'm just being mindful to only really work through the ends. This is kind of a thicker density and I don't want to take away the volume of the hair, but we do want to soften out the line. So I'm just thinking about notching into the ends with the razor and kind of creating spikes, if you will, just taking away those channels of weight so that the line is still preserved, but it's a little bit thinner, a little bit less hair. And then even towards the ends here, like I don't want to take away too much of that weight, so I'm probably not going to overly texturize on the very ends. Same sections, once you see that cutting line, you can just notch into the ends to remove that weight. And if you look really closely, you can actually comb out the hair so you can see the exact weight you removed. Just repeating the same technique on the top layers. So again, holding them the same way that we did when we cut earlier, and then just taking the razor to take a little bit of weight away. Make sure you're not using too much pressure so that you can maintain that cutting line you put in. I do think my favorite thing about razor cutting is just the ability to take away the weight really fast and do most of the haircut while it's wet. Because when we do use a scissor, you're able to get a similar effect, right? But you often have to wait until the hair is dry to really do those final details and take away all the weight. Where with the razor, it's kind of an artistic tool. Like it's almost like a pen. So you're able to just draw the little pieces that you want to carve out, and you're able to really create more custom designs with a lot more ease. So here's the haircut when it's wet. We're all done. We're just gonna get it blown dry. I'm gonna use some of my Kenra blow dry spray and a little bit of volume mousse just to add some shape to the hair. But I'm gonna keep it more of like a smooth blowout so you can see what it looks like without a lot of styling. And then we'll show you a couple options that you have with all the new layers. So I just blow dried with a little bit of a Kenra blow dry spray just for heat protection, and then just added some volume with a round brush to get the shape. But you can see all of the nice face framing and the layers that we put in, as well as the length we were able to maintain just by using that simple technique. I hope you enjoyed the haircut. Let me know what other haircuts you want to see down in the comments. And if you have any questions, also leave them down below. I'm sure I didn't answer everything, so I want to hear from you. If there were any parts that were confusing, and if you tried it yourself, also let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.